I'm not one for rash decisions, and I'm not one for celebrating or getting ahead of myself. But I feel like there's only one thing to do in this situation. Woo! It's all the fucking setup now. Christ, oh, dearie me. Oh, this is going to be a mess to clean up.
That's what you get for being disrespectful to a club legend, right?
So-called Celtic fan.
So-called Celtic fan, mate. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Sellik the Thunder. It's party time, I suppose. It's the episode we've all been waiting for. I don't quite know how to react. I've been waiting for this day for so long, and the smile won't come off my face. Now, let's get one thing perfectly clear. We understand there will be a balance in the comments section between folk who'll be saying, oh, put the respect on Neil Lennon's name, and then there'll be people who'll be sharing probably the same mindset as us and saying, thank fuck, he's gone. But we'll talk about it all anyway. There's a lot to digest. There's a lot to talk about. And as usual, I'm joined by two of the panelists. And I've decided that I'd go with the two who are on the most recent episode because it's going to be a nice change for us all. Like, we're happy for once. This is the first episode I feel like we've got a smile on our faces. So first off, Ryan, mate, you've been waiting for this.
I have, and it's weird because you're caught in two minds in some ways, because you're like, what do you do now? What do I campaign for now? It's like the bit in Madagascar where the penguins get to Antarctica. And they're like, what now?
That's a nice way to put it. Kieran, you're back as well. Oh, sorry, Ryan, but you got to say something else there, mate.
No, I was probably going to blabber on a bit, but when you
we've got a lot of time to blabber anyway. I'm sure there'll be a lot of it in this episode. Kieran, how are you feeling, mate, after seeing the news this morning?
I mean, there's a smile on my face for a change, but at the same time, as happy as you can be, this should have happened a long time ago.
Yep. Exactly.
So it just feels a bit futile, but I'm still glad at the same time.
Right, well, as you said, some feelings a bit futile towards it, considering how long it's actually taken. There's so much to cover, and I imagine there'll be a lot of people clicking on this from both sides of the city. There'll be Rangers fans wanting to see a reaction. There'll be Celtic fans, of course, here for the opinions of it. So let's try jump right into it. I suppose the news broke last night. I believe it was the Free Letter publication that I'm not going to drop on here that broke the story first, and then it was started to be covered by everybody else. When you originally seen it last night, Kieran, the news was that within the 24 hours Lennon would be gone. Did you believe it at first when you seen it, put it that way?
I mean, it's one of the ones you wanted to believe it, but you always had your reservations because there's been so many rumours this year about it. But for them to have came out and reported it, and Celtic have been sort of trickling information to them before telling anybody else for whatever reason, you can't wrap your head around it. But when you seen it, you're like, surely it's going to happen. And you knew if they were going to announce it, it would have been early morning. They wouldn't have left it all day to simmer away.
Yeah, Ryan as well. We kind of spoke last night. You were the one that informed me. I was at work, just kind of plodding along. It was a day which, started off entirely depressing, I would say, in the fact that we heard the news from Nicola Sturgeon about having to wait another 10 weeks for a bit of normality, blah, blah, blah. So it wasn't the greatest of days. Then I looked down at my phone suddenly, and you in capital letters were informing me of this news. You were the kind of first out of everyone I knew to know. How did it strike you?
Similar to what Kieran was saying, the way that we've been trickling stories to the media into that publication in particular, I did believe it because that's what we've been doing this season. It was as if it went from 0 to 100 like so quickly.
Aye.
Another Drake reference in there. It came out of nowhere.
Yep.
One minute people were just sad and depressed talking about the lockdown, and the next people were saying he's gone. Because I did see a single tweet before the Sun one came out. I've said the publication.
It doesn't matter, mate. On you go. Just keep going.
I seen a tweet saying Lennon gone, and it only had about 3 or 4 likes. I was like, this has got to be a load of rubbish.
Aye.
Yeah, apparently he had a source that was telling him. So the news must have broke earlier. But once it was announced, I was like, it was almost universal joy.
Yep. It seems like for the first time in a long time, there was such a sea of positivity on Celtic Twitter. There was such a apart from, of course, the people who have been clapping on Lennon all season, but the vast majority of tweets were directed in they were in the direction of positivity. Everybody seemed to be just kind of celebrating this joyous event that we'd finally got rid of Lennon after months of tyranny. The announcement finally came this morning after all of that. It was they wasted no time. I thought I was up early this morning. I think I got up about 7:15, 7:45, and it was 44 minutes already released. So I think it was 7 o'clock this morning they released the statement that Neil Lennon has, and they used the word resigns. And we'll come on to that before we start giving our opinion and before we start diving into the actual fact that Lennon is gone. One more loud cheer from the audience. I'll read a bit of the statement just for people who may not have seen it, and imagine you have, unless, I don't know, your internet's been off all day or something. But Celtic Football Club today announced that Neil Lennon has resigned from his position as football manager with immediate effect. Neil has served the club with distinction as both player and manager, delivering numerous successes, most recently completing the domestic treble in December. In his second period as Celtic manager, he has achieved 5 trophy successes to add to his 3 league titles and 2 Scottish Cup victories in his first period as manager. Current assistant manager John Kennedy will take interim charge of the team. Neil Lennon then comes out and comments. We'll come to Neil Lennon's comments later on. But let's get into that. Neil Lennon resigns. That was the word, Ryan. Some people are saying he's done the runner before the embarrassment of perhaps losing the league title against Rangers at Celtic Park. I thought it would be a mutual consent kind of job, but it seems that he's walked away according to Celtic.
If he was going to walk away, he could have done it months ago, to be fair. Well, we still had a chance in the league. It's far too late. I mean, I'm glad it's done, but it's far too late in my opinion. Almost in a sick, twisted way, I kind of wanted him to stay for that game. Because I think he should suffer like the rest of us have suffered this season. I mean, I know that sounds terrible, but if you've started the messing up of the season, then he might as well finish it.
Yep, I mean, a lot of people saying he should have faced the music and kind of took the hit. And I don't know my opinion of it. I just kind of want him gone, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
I thought you were going to keep going. It's fine. But look, Kieran, as well, this came out. There's a lot of, in this statement, and we're going to come on to Lennon's comments, there's a lot of lapping up Neil Lennon in here. It's a bit long for a managerial resignation. Usually when a manager resigns, it's usually when a manager resigns, it's normally bad circumstances they've resigned for, and that usually entails a statement that goes on for maybe 1 or 2 paragraphs. In this, they kind of lap him up and talk about all his successes. There's a lot of quotes. As you were reading, what were your thoughts?
I mean, there's a lot of try to save face for Neil Lennon here in this statement. They're trying their absolute damnedest to try and preserve what some people would still think he's got as a legacy. Mm-hmm. I feel like the man never resigned. I'm certain of that. I'm certain that he's just been told, right, we're going to allow you to have the public image of having resigned. But even then, for me, even if he did resign, it's no saved any his character or nothing. Like, he had his chance months ago to save his character, his reputation, everything about him at this club. And I'm as I said, if you follow me on Twitter, you'll have seen all the stuff I've been saying. If you go onto Facebook and you check your comments, what do you see? You see people going like, absolute disgrace, he's been treated this way, he's still a club legend. I understand it's the older ones, and the opinion's always going to differ. It's never, I don't think there's ever going to be any sort of harmony between the two groups, especially after such a divisive season.
Yep.
But I mean, to come out and try and still claim that the man's still a Celtic legend in that, when the man's treated the fans with just complete contempt this season.
Yep.
He's laughed in our faces in interviews, and people say you need to respect Neil Lennon when we've not been granted the same courtesy. So I don't understand why Neil Lennon still holds this cult following, and I'm convinced that some people support Neil Lennon FC instead of Celtic FC, the way some people go on about it.
Yep.
People, I've even heard people in the older elements of the sport going like that. Since when was Neil Lennon a club legend before this season? It's been getting thrown about he's a club legend, but people have came out and said he was a mediocre player. He was surrounded by players that were helping the team far more than he was. And then you've got people saying, I can respect what he done in his first spell as manager, and even to an extent in his second spell. But I seen it on Twitter last night, and it was a video of him dropping to his knees after we completed the treble. That was his time to go. Yep. He could have left, head completely high. Everybody would held him in the highest of regards. But they gave him the job, and I suppose that's down to us shouting 1-0 Lennon in the stands that day. But I mean, it's just sad to see things go the way they have. But
yeah.
Just
that was it. That
sports
was the
it.
kind of, that's nice. Like, I'm not to the point I was going to make next. Like, there is absolutely no denying the way things have panned out is not how I think anybody would have, number one, envisioned it, or number two, wanted it to go. Before this season, to me, Neil Lennon was always an icon. He was always someone I looked up to. He came through a lot of adversity, blah blah, and we know of his past in Scotland. He's had a tough time with it. And we've all supported him. We've all chanted his name. As you said, the stands have shouted one Neil Lennon time and time and time again because of the amount of respect we did have for the guy. But we spoke about it in the last show. We spoke about it in the last podcast. And this is why I invited you two on, because we've most recently had the conversation. The guy was laughing in the last interviews you've touched on. The guy had months to resign. The guy had months to realise that this was not his season. The guy had months to realise that it was the decency, it would be the decent thing of him to walk away and allow the team to rally behind another manager and try and make a chance for this title. He was the man who apparently took the blame for going to Dubai as well. After that, you'd expect something to come of him walking away, but he didn't. He stayed, and it fell apart under him. And for him to walk away now, and yes, I think it's all too late. But there's absolutely. I think we're all spot on to be as happy as we all are with him going, because he's kind of brought it on himself. And we'll all admit to that. As I said in the last one, I will use the exact same words. I feel like through a 5D camera, the guy spat in my face this season. That's the feeling I get from him staying here so long. And now that he is gone and people are sitting, now there's a kind of clash between fans of should we give him the respect he deserves and all the rest of it. I think it's absolute nonsense, because the respect he's gave us has been non-existent. So why should it exist between or for us to him? It is a bit of a blunder altogether. But he's gone. So Neil Lennon goes on in the statement to say, we've experienced a difficult season due to so many factors, and of course it's very frustrating and disappointing that we have not been able to hit the same heights as we did previously. I have worked as hard as ever to try and turn things around, but unfortunately we have not managed to get the kind of run going that we've needed. I've always given my best to the club, and I've always been proud to deliver silverware to the Celtic supporters. The club will always be part of me. I will always be a Celtic supporter myself, and I'll always want the best for Celtic. I would like to thank so many people at the club who have given me so much, and I would also like to thank my family for their love and support. I wish the Celtic supporters, players and staff, directors, nothing but success for the future. Ryan, what are you thinking about it?
It's just a birthday card push, isn't it? I'm totally glad I'm hearing it, but it's all the nonsense, really.
Yep.
No, I'm just glad it's happened. I mean, I'm kind of lost for words in this sort of way, because I was totally not expecting it today whatsoever.
Exactly. That's one thing we've not even touched on, and sorry to cut you off there. One thing we've not touched on is, I don't think none of us expected it on this Wednesday morning. Like, why was it not months ago? Why was it not Monday? Why was it not yesterday? Why now?
I know I would have thought that it would have been Monday, if anything.
Yep.
So by Tuesday, I was in this sort of state that I'd resigned myself to the fact that he was going to be in charge against Aberdeen.
Yeah.
But now Aberdeen's on Saturday, and I'm actually looking forward to a game for the first time in months. In a weird way. And I know John Kennedy's still part of the problem, and Gavin Strachan with his iPad or laptop, whatever he's feeling on the day. But there's hope now. Like, it was too late for Lennon, but it's not too late for Celtic. We can salvage something from this. Not this season, but the rebuild can start now.
Yeah, exactly. I know there's a lot of things to take into consideration, and we'll come on to that, the whole John Kennedy to the end of the season. We'll come on to the sporting director interviews. We'll come on to what happens next in terms of the rebuild. Kieran, he always has given his best to the club and been proud to deliver silverware to the Celtic supporters. That's the words of him. This season, it feels like he's obviously we know he's not delivered his best. He claims he's tried his best. But this is something that now he's coming out with these quotes. Why couldn't it have been November? Why couldn't it have been October? I know we've always held on to this sort of opinion that he was here for the payout, he was here for the money, blah, blah, blah. But why was it? Why could he not have came out with this October, November and saved himself the hassle and saved himself the hostility between him and the fans?
It's a point that's been spoke about for months and debated between Celtic fans alike, but the whole thing is, I keep saying about people on Facebook especially, but some of the older ones coming out and saying he's still a Celtic man through and through. And I've said it so many times, a Celtic man would have came out with this statement 4 months ago.
No.
4 months ago was the time for him to leave with still a decent respect between all elements of the support. But now he's left with a sense that I don't think it would be welcome back in the immediate future, even to do a fucking Paradise windfall. I don't think he's commanded the respect that I don't, as you said, Ryan, why should we give him the respect when he is treated us with such, I don't even know how to describe it. You're just, as Ryan said, you're just lost for words.
Yep.
Obviously, you're happy he's gone, but this should have been taken out of his hands as well. When it was clear that the man wasn't going to walk away when it was needed.
Yep.
It was time for the board to step up and put the guy out of his misery. And even if it was for the payout, just give it, because it would have no. I'm not going to come out and say that this season would have turned out perfect. Likelihood is probably wouldn't have, but everybody would have been so much happier if we'd got rid of him and gave it a decent try to try and push for the title. But to have been in the actual nick that we are in, and it took this long for the guy to resign, that's just, it's despicable. And I won't hear anybody say otherwise. If a guy waits this long, if he's that stubborn that he believed they still had a chance up until this point, what hope have you got? But as Ryan said, it's a sense of optimism for the future now. You've got this weight that's been on everybody's shoulders all season, the major talking point. It can finally go back to actually focusing on something a bit more positive, because everything at Celtic's been negative this season. And I'm not saying they've got fans that came out and said that's people being negative is the reason we've done badly, but the negative influence has been Neil Lennon, and it's all stemmed back to him and the board. The board are just as culpable in this as the rest of them. And people on Facebook and that seem to think that, but where's the blame for the board and that? Have these people not seen the protests? These protests were against Neil Lennon and the board.
People forget there was a massive banner saying back the team, sack the board, back the team, sack the manager. The message was clear. People weren't turning their backs on Celtic. People were turning their backs on a failing system that was at the top of the club.
And it's just this whole mindset that the whole faithful through and through, it is the case. People might criticise Celtic. It doesn't mean we support them any less. It doesn't mean we're going to stop going to games and when we're back to it. It doesn't mean that. Just because you criticise the team and you have an opinion that doesn't toe the party line sort of thing, it doesn't make you less of a fan, less of a supporter because you're criticising a club legend. You just need to, some people just need to rein it in a bit and take a step back, take the green tinted specs off and genuinely look at this from a logical standpoint. As much as these people have not loved Neil Lennon for years and they've defended him all the way to the end, just take a step back and look at what this man has done to the club in such a short space of time. And you'll be able to see what's happened. And
that kind of leads me on to a point that I wanted to come on to next. And you're talking about how much has been destroyed in such a short period of time. I'm going to give a big shout out to one of the people who sends in a question every week, well a few weeks anyway, Mr. Spunkphone on Twitter. He brought up a tweet that I actually held a lot of, and I'll turn my camera back on, apologies about that. He brought up a point which I thought was actually really good, and we all know Mr. Spunkphonio for being a man who likes to take the piss and all the rest of it, but Neil Lennon has waited till we're 18 points behind with 8 games to play, having utterly embarrassed the club in Europe again and destroying the sell-on value of our valuable assets. He's destroyed his credibility he had with the support for a payout, an utter coward. And of course, that comes back to the point that he's ran away now before the Derby game where we could potentially lose the title. But that's a point I want to make before I open this up for you guys to come in, and it kind of expands off this point that has been raised here on Twitter. It was something I was thinking about for the past few weeks if Lennon was to leave. The long-term damage, and we've spoken about it, Ryan, you've spoken about this quite a lot in the podcast, the long-term damage he's created at Celtic and the job that he has now put ahead for Dominic Mackay, the new manager and the sporting director, are so much tougher than what it should have been ever. Brendan Rodgers left a clear route for someone to come in and build off. There was a plan, there was a vision, and there was potential. The likes of Odsonne Edouard came in, we all knew he had potential. He should have been leaving this club for upwards of 20-25 million pounds. The reality is we could be losing him for 15 million pounds in the summer. And people might say, well, that's not our fault, Edouard. And this is the happy clappers. They might say, Edouard doesn't want to sign a contract. Can't blame Lennon for that. No. If you're telling me that Edouard wouldn't have signed a new contract with a manager who would have been competent, or at least we sold him maybe in the summer there would have been a plan in place. Something would have happened. The long-term damage done in our sell-on is going to be huge. The long-term damage of now finding an identity at this club is going to be difficult. I know we're all want to rally behind. Say it was Eddie Howe, right? Just for talking sake. I know there's a lot of names out in the running just now, but Eddie Howe, say he comes in the summer now, right? Eddie Howe comes in. For him to find a distinct identity and to get this team playing to a Premiership winning level against a Rangers team who are rampant at the minute and no signs of slowing down is going to take so much work. It's so much more work than it ever should have because of what Neil Lennon has done. This team is a team who's lacked identity and tactics for a full season now. They've lacked fitness. Fitness is the main thing. Who is going to come in and get this team rejuvenated and ready to play a full season of football like that? When the Euros are on over the summer as well, half our team's away. So it's like, there's weeks lost. These players have got to come back and then get a holiday from the Euros. There's weeks gone. The long-term effect that is going to be left here from Neil Lennon is absolutely unbelievable. And for that's another fact that adds to the unforgivable side of things. There's been no thought or consideration from Neil Lennon for 1 minute as to where this club heads from after his departure. He's thought about himself the entire time. He's thought about his own accomplishments, his own career. And now his career's got to go down the pan. And I, for one, quite welcome it, to be honest with you. It's disastrous. You think about where we head now. I am optimistic and I am buzzing for where we head now. I'm buzzing for the thought of a director, a new manager, Dominic Mackay, and a new kind of beginning for the club, a new era. But it's going to take so much more work than it ever should have. And God knows who's going to be leaving here in the summer now. I hope that the likes of Ayer might go, do you know what? I'll give this new guy a chance and I'll stay at the club and we'll see what goes on. But there's no guarantee after the shit show of this season. Ryan, you've touched on it so much this season. Moving forward, as buzzing as we are, there is that you've got to add in that there will be a hint of, I don't know the word to use, but it's got to be trickier than we ever imagined.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult. I'm 50-50. I'm half buzzing, half pessimistic with the whole thing.
That was the word I was going to use, and I was like, do I think pessimism?
I didn't know if pessimism was a word. No, it's important that we get the right appointments in. Like, I think what needs to be clarified is that John Kennedy is only an interim manager, that there is no chance that he can get the job on a permanent, and that we are looking for a manager to come in. We're looking to whatever position he's in, whether he's in a job, he's out of a job. We need to know that we're actively looking for a manager just now. I think in the next couple of weeks you'll see a sporting director or a director of football appointed, which will be a good appointment, because it'll show a shift in the team in a new era that we're about to walk into. It really does need to be the right appointment at the end of the day, because I think next season could be the most important season in a long, long time. I know we said that about this season, but the climate has changed.
Yep.
Next season is so important. We need to wrestle this back.
Yep. There's a lot on the line in terms of how far we could fall behind Rangers if we don't pull it back next season. So I completely understand what you're saying, Kieran. Your thoughts on next season, and there's this conversation of what do fans expect now? Does the guy who comes in next season get the opportunity to build? Do we expect instant success? What goes on between the fan expectation and the new manager coming in?
I mean, I can't speak for the full support, but in terms of next season, fans won't allow a sort of the style of rebuild that Rangers had. Rangers had 3 years, and all they had to do was stop the 10, and they've done it in the final season. Gerrard had that time. We don't have time for a project because we are in dangerous times. If we stagnate again and we don't improve enough next season, we are going to be a good few years away from winning league titles. So everything needs to get thrown at this. It can't be half-hearted. It can't be like everything needs to get thrown at it. The checkbook. We need a manager. The style appointment. No meaning it has to be somebody like that, but Brendan Rodgers. That was a statement of intent when we brought him in. Money was thrown at it. Fair enough. Financial backing maybe wasn't there completely that season, but financial backing and a decent big name manager, because if you want to bring in players to actually help this team, it needs to be a bigger name. No time for projects. No time for people that haven't even established themselves in the slightest. There's people out there like saying about Frank Lampard. Nah. That's a style I point out. It would take maybe 2 or 3 years to work it up here, I think.
See fucking Mark Wilson lapping that up on Sky today. Fucking Lampard would be an interesting appointment. How is that interesting? The only reason that is interesting is for the sheer marketing profitability of doing the Gerrard versus Lampard again. It's not interesting at all. I fucking hate
the media are licking their lips at the prospect of that. but
Aye.
every reasonable Celtic fan's thinking, fuck that.
Aye,
Because
Fat
it's not what
Frank,
this club needs. It's not what this club needs right now. And as Ryan says, obviously this season was meant to be the biggest one, and it's been a disaster. Everybody can admit that. But with what Lennon's left behind for the new manager and co that are coming in, it is truly going to be a task and a half to try and turn this around in such a short period of time. I feel like fans will be patient to an extent, but if it's the same level of disaster next season, people won't stand for it. And the one thing I was going to make a point about was season tickets coming out. Very
I was going
convenient.
to
This has happened. This has happened with season tickets coming up. Maybe in the next few weeks, next month. Anyway.
It's usually by the end of March anyway.
What I would push for people today, I'm not saying everybody has to do it, but don't renew straight away. Wait until there's clear signs that change has been made before you part with £500 to Celtic.
Aye.
Like
everybody rally behind Kieran Hall.
No, but everybody last season, myself included, I'm pretty sure we're all guilty of it.
Yep.
We were like, we were part of the blind faith mentality last season. Like, we'll help the club out in such tough times. We're going into a massive season, and we had it through back in our face. In the course of the season, the faith that the Celtic fans put in, not knowing if we were going to get back to football, we gave them up to £500 odd to sit and watch it on a fucking stream. Aye. Obviously, that's out with their control, but it still stands. If we are parting with that sort of money right as soon as they come out, they're going to think, oh, we don't need to make that big a statement.
It feels like they're playing this as a fiddle, if that's the case, doesn't it?
If people just wait and wait and wait, they're going to realise they need to do something drastic.
Yep.
If they think there's a chance that we're going to lose in half your season tickets here, then they're going to make a big statement. Dermot Desmond's going to put his hand in his pocket and get a big manager in. So that's the only thing. I just feel like there will be people that rush out and try to show their support straight away with renewing it, but I just encourage people to wait as long as humanly possible, because even if it feels that a deadline's got to be coming up, they push it back an extra month. Mm-hmm. They always do it. So it's just not to give them the money. Don't let them do it this season, because if you date straight away, they're going to be able to get away with it again.
Aye.
And it just can't happen.
We need to. I think there has to be a message saying that this is, a Rodgers type appointment we need now. That's one of the ways to do it. Season tickets, of course, is a complex scenario in the sense this season that I think a lot of people will be eager, like myself, just to get back to football, just to get back in the stadium. The prospect of us being there next season it kind of keeps you mentally sane in a sense that we could be there next season. But there's a long way to go, and I think you're spot on, Tier. I think we have to be cautious of where we go now in terms of where our hopes go within this board to make decisions. Of course, Dominic Mackay, I believe, will have a big say in things when he comes in, but the question is, how much of an influence now will he have on deciding the next manager, considering he doesn't officially start the job till June the 1st? Because in an ideal world, I think I would love to have a new manager and a sport director in place for June the 1st. That gives you a fresh start right there from the off to get things going. But there's a lot to talk about in that, and I'm guessing over the coming months, we will dive right into that. There's going to be a lot of conversations. There'll be a lot of rumours on managers. We'll have so much time to talk about it. We've got about 10 minutes to cover everything before we go to Twitter questions. And there's one thing we've not talked about at all. So let's move into it. And it's John Kennedy. He has been given the interim role till the end of the season. We have touched on it, but we've not gave our thoughts or opinions on Kennedy himself. A man who I will very quickly off the top say, under Brendan Rodgers, I was a massive advocate for this man to be the successor. I constantly said on this channel that the day Rodgers leaves, which I was intending to be June this year, sadly never turned out to be, but I was intending Rodgers to leave in June this year. I was saying as soon as he goes, the man who should be in charge is John Kennedy. Things have changed. I've seen him dubbed as Lennedy nowadays for his role in the coaching staff under Neil Lennon. People don't have the same high regards, you could say. I still like to think he's a good coach in the terms of what I've heard from players ranting and raving about him. But what do we expect, Ryan, over the course of the next 8 or 9 games with Kennedy in charge?
Who knows, really? I've got no idea. We'll see what happens. I see this as a sort of trial period for him, see if he can get an assistant manager's job under the new manager. I mean, I hope that the new manager coming in can bring in his own coaching staff. That would be like the perfect thing to do, because Lennon never got that. I mean, that is one thing that he never got. He never got to bring in his own people, which was a problem.
I mean, who would they fucking have brought anyway? Alan Thompson?
Gary Clark. I can see why they weren't brought in. I think Twitter tells you all you need to know sometimes about those characters. But No, it'll be interesting to see how the team plays and what sort of style they bring. I've really got no idea because you don't know how much Lennon was influencing the players, so you don't know what sort of reaction you're going to get from the players at all. Hopefully a positive, but it's all kind of up in the air just now.
I think, Kieran, that the majority of fans, including ourselves, will probably well, Ryan, you've kind of hinted towards maybe putting him forward for a suggestion for the job, but I think regarding the names who are also there, Kennedy probably is someone who should be nowhere near the permanent manager of the club. I think we can all agree in that. But how much changes now that Lennon's gone? Because Neil Lennon's a man who's openly came out the past and said he doesn't believe in tactics. So John Kennedy, as an assistant, can only have so much influence in that. John Kennedy is ultimately number 2. He's not number 1. He can't change what Neil Lennon sends the team out to do in terms of the start 11 and the tactics, or lack of, I should say. Under Brendan Rodgers is a man who apparently had great influence and great ability. He, for me, is a man who's looked disengaged from Neil Lennon all season. A lot of people, of course, are putting blame on the whole coaching staff, as I think we should. I think all the coaching team are to blame for this season. Lennon maybe more than others, but I think that Strachan and Kennedy, of course, have to take responsibility for what has been failure on the training ground. We've clearly seen we've not been working on what we should be, and Kennedy has got to take a slice of the blame for that. But for me, he's a man who's looked disengaged. He's not looked happy. And I'm not going to start a conspiracy theory that perhaps he's been hoping for Lennon to be gone so he can step into this sort of situation. But is this now a time for Kennedy to come out and show that he's not part of the problem at Celtic?
I mean, it is his chance to prove that. You were saying earlier about how when he was under Rodgers, I know a lot of people were sort of talking about him being the successor, but even then I wasn't sold on it. Like, I know it's happened in the past, coaches not becoming, Neil Lennon, for example, become the manager, but I just was never on board with it. Never. And I don't know if that's just me not knowing enough about the guy at the time.
Yeah.
But this season, I don't think you can really put too much on the whole, he's not like happy and all that, because you can say that. What the fuck is that?
I know what it's going to be happy about, I suppose.
If everybody's there to take share of the blame, obviously Lennon a lot more than others in terms of the coaching staff. He's the man that picks the team. He's the one that should be picking the tactics, or should have been, but he wasn't. He was just putting 11 players out in the park, and as you said, how much influence could Kennedy actually have on decisions that were being made? Because if there was no change in it tactically, then what were they doing? So it's his chance to show what he can do, try and put his imprint in the team, and hopefully get us a bit rejuvenated. But I think it's got to be hard for that to happen. I'm not expecting an awful lot for the end of the season. I'm just hoping that it doesn't get embarrassed, and I'm just wanting this season to be over and done with, and we can get a fresh start. Hopefully, with a decent manager.
He's been thrown in at the deep end right enough, hasn't he? Because he's got 2 tough games before the derby, never mind the derby. You know, he's got Aberdeen at Celtic Park this weekend, where Aberdeen are kind of desperate for a result, and you know they could have very easily took points off us the last game we played them. He's then got Dundee United at Tannadice, which we struggled with earlier in the season. Ayeti scoring a last-minute goal, and then of course the game of all games, the derby, and then you go into the split. You know, he's been given a very tough run of games, so now the expectation of Kennedy. You know what, Ryan? I think as fans, can we be too demanding of of John, or what do we think about
that? I really don't think the fans have any expectations, and I think all the expectations have been shot away due to the failure of this season. So I think it's now like a procession until the end of the season, really. If we get any bonuses in terms of like maybe a win against Rangers, then so be it. But from now until the end of the season, it's all a bit meaningless. And the only bits of positivity we'll probably be getting is the occasional win, or maybe news about a sporting director or a director of football.
Yep. I think we'd all be in agreement that behind the scenes is going to be the more interesting part of the remainder of this season. I think that off the park dealings will now be what Celtic fans are mostly concentrating on. Results, frankly, as much as we want good results, they don't mean as much as getting a good manager in next. But Ryan, I would suggest this now. Is it important to try and get some results and get the team playing entertaining football to help attract a bigger name?
I feel like the name itself should be attractive to most managers. I think the fact that the Celtic job now has become available should mean that there should be a big influx of CVs coming in.
Yep. And
now we know that Dominic Mackay will actually read CVs, unlike his predecessor, who filed them away and gave the job to his pal. I think the job will be attractive enough for any manager, but I suppose winning helps at the end of the day as well. I mean,
Right,
it's nice to see assets playing well. Sort of players. It'd be nice to see players like a Yeti and Sorrow and Turnbull.
Barkas, get him back in the team now, get him back in.
Because he wasn't even on the bench the other day.
I know. What is going on, man?
Why not play him? What is there to lose now?
Oh, of course. And I guess it's a good indication as to if there is quality there to be looking at into next season, or if we do need to sign another goalkeeper. Finally, before we move on to Twitter questions, we've got a couple of minutes left before I want to get on to that. Steve Clark's now the favourite. I still am, for one, I'm not convinced that he would leave the Scotland role to come to Celtic. He's now the favourite. So in the last couple of minutes here, what we're thinking in terms of how excited are we in terms of the rumours coming up then, Kieran?
Steve Clark he's doing well for Scotland, but I feel like that's suited what Scotland need. Scotland have always needed just playing against these teams that were no better than. We need to have a way of playing that we can be compact to the back and then hit them on the counter.
Yep.
Celtic fans won't stand for that style of football being played. It's fine when you're Kilmarnock and you're trying to be hard to beat in that. Celtic do need to be hard to beat, but at the same time, the whole ethos of the club is to play attacking, attractive football, and you're not gonna. Fans won't take that. Like, as much as I think Steve Clark's a good manager, I just don't think he's what Celtic need right now, and I think he's perfect for what Scotland need.
Yep, Ryan, we'll take Clark out of it for a minute. It's going to be it kind of reminds me of that period after Rodgers' departure before Lennon was given the job permanently. We were throwing names out. I mean, it's exciting.
It is exciting. It's a wee bit of positivity. The fact that we know that someone different is going to be in the dugout next season. I feel like that'll sell season tickets in itself. I know Kieran said to hold off a wee bit, but the fact that there'll be somebody else in the dugout is really exciting. It'll be good. It'll be good to see who's linked with the job. I think you'll see a lot of weird and wonderful names linked to the job in the next few weeks. I'd love to see Eddie Howe. I'll be honest. I think Eddie Howe would be the perfect sort of appointment. We need that sort of structure, and he had that structure at Bournemouth, and he would bring in his own coaching staff who are available now because Jason Tindall gets sacked from Bournemouth. Yep. So
I something lovely and fresh is all I think we're asking for. It sounded like Alex Kearney there, lovely and fresh, but that's all we're kind of needing now. I think Eddie Howe is somebody I just think brings a nice sort of. I can see a nice regime going on with him in charge. Fitness back at the priority. We'll get into all of that as the months go by and the rumours start to go. I mean, a lot of people getting on the Martinez and Maloney bus. I would absolutely adore that. Once again, it's something that. How realistic are you looking at it being with the fact that Belgium could genuinely win the Euros? I mean, Martinez is a Euros win away from being appointed as somewhere like an Arsenal manager or a big club. So, you've got to kind of weigh it up. But there's a lot of names being thrown about, and we'll come into it. We'll get onto it all. Very quickly, it was something that we touched on there just as the first call ended, and let's touch on it now before we do move on to the questions. Will we ever find out the secrets? What were the secrets about this unmitigated disaster of a season, Ryan?
I think all will be revealed in a biography coming to all news agents and news retailers in the near future.
Smith book signing down in Sucky Street.
Here, I actually went to a Neil Lennon book signing, so I can't really say too much. I've got a signed copy. I was
like me the day I pulled out that Neil Lennon shirt. I've got a shirt with Lennon 18 in the back. I was like, what the fuck did I do with this, dude?
It's not as bad as Scott Allen 19. Trust me. But no, he'll market that as part of his new book deal or something, along with what he said to Ali McCoyster, what Ali McCoy said to him after the shame game.
Aye, Kieran, what about you? Do you think that we'll ever find out? Do you think like one day Lennon will be on the path to paradise and he'll finally let slip of everything that he's had away from us?
You don't even know, man. Like, why would you come out and say that? Like, say, there's stuff I can't talk about, but then tell people that there's stuff that they can't talk about. Like, just doesn't make any sense, man.
It almost reminds me. I like, I have kissed a lassie. I did my grunge bit, but it's almost like that, isn't it?
And I'm sure we'll see him on something like BT Sports Score in the next 6 months, maybe the next year.
Maybe on Open Goal in the next 6 months.
So he'll be on Open Goal and it will bang. Like, it'll be huge.
He'll be one of the new pundits on the keep the ball on the ground.
Haven't McAvenny. That'll be some fucking laugh. Can you imagine Lennon and Halliday sitting beside each other? Christ almighty. That would be a real laugh. What a oh dear. Halliday just shouting and Lennon with his big fucking snus-filled lips. Just try to put up with him. It's one day we'll hopefully find out. I'm dying to know what's been the source of all of this. Has there been behind the scenes bullying? Has the social media got to him? What has it been? It's just so many questions. Hopefully one day, imagine one day, just imagine Sellik to Thunder episode 174. It's us and Neil Lennon. Christ.
I'm sure in the future we'll get tickets gone out for an evening with Neil Lennon.
So I might be going to see, what is it, Larson, Sutton and Hartson. They may as well throw fucking Lennon in now, He's got nothing better to do.
We actually get refunds for that if they do that.
You know, I'd be up for it. Like along my season ticket, I'd also like to cancel.
I did not buy this. I did not pay for this.
This was false advertising in the first place. So we'll move on to the Twitter questions to end off the show, because there's of course a sea of them that have piled in this day of joy for Celtic fans. I think this should now become a day of obligation. I've always said that the 26th of February 2019 will always be remembered as the day the football died, but the 24th of February 2021 will now be remembered as a holy day of obligation, the day the football was resurrected. I'm going to now claim it. It's like Jesus coming out the tomb. Brendan Rodgers is about to emerge as new manager of Celtic. We're going to tap him up from Leicester somehow. So we'll go on. First of all, Kieran, he's asked who's fit to replace him. Who is fit to replace? I think anybody with a sort of know-how in football is fit to replace Neil Lennon, in all honesty. We've kind of danced through certain options. We've talked about Cork being the favourite. I'll quickly start us off, and we'll just go with who we want, our one and only one that who we want. But this is it now. This is your platform to speak, right? This is who you're backing. This is your number one choice, and this is who you want to see. Doesn't matter how unrealistic it may be. Well, let's keep some sort of. Let's not go out and say fucking Pep Guardiola, right? But if you've got anything, who is it? For me, I'm sticking to it, and I'm going for Eddie Howe. There are names that I like the idea of. I don't mind the idea of Clark. I like the idea of maybe Graham Potter of Brighton if it was possible. There are a few names around there. I like the idea of Martinez Maloney, but Eddie Howe is the one for me, Kieran.
I know, I'd agree with you. Eddie Howe's been the one all season. That's what fans have wanted. I mean, even though there's been a bit of debate about whether he's done enough and all that, but for me, definitely Eddie Howe. As you said, there's attractive options, well, seemingly options out there that you would like. As you said, I wouldn't mind the idea of Martinez Maloney coming in, but as you said, one good Euros here, and then they've got a decent wee job in England. So exactly. I think we need to be realistic about things, but same way Eddie Howe, you don't know what's going to happen. I'm ready to be disappointed, but
I know it's one of those ones we're all building our hopes up as well, when it's undoubtedly going to be, we've announced fucking Mick McCarthy as manager. It would not surprise me at all. There is a lot of names we've even touched on it. You know, the likes of Rafa Benitez, of course, as well, who's been thrown about. I suppose this will be now the end of the Strachan and O'Neill talk, now that it's going to be a proper project that will be going, well, I don't want to use the word project because, as we've already mentioned, we want to be kind of successful straight away. But Ryan, your choice. Are you an Eddie Howe man? Have you got another one in mind?
I mean, I'm an Eddie Howe man, but I wouldn't be against, and I know he didn't do such a great job at Marseille over the past couple of years. I wouldn't be against Andre Villas-Boas. I think it'd be the perfect team to resurrect his sort of credibility at. I think he's a good manager. He's still young. Like
he's definitely got the right visions as a manager. I would say. I think he's definitely got a nice sort of. He's got something that Lennon never had in the terms of a kind of familiar set of identity in the game.
And I heard like I can't even speak. Shevchenko was rumoured as well, and Andrei Shevchenko, which would be mental. He's pals with Ross Desmond, Dermot Desmond's son, which is one of the weirdest stories I've heard.
I want to hear about that night out. That's what I want to know. What's that city you met? What Budapest toilet did they meet in? Like, how did they become pals? That's what I want to know. That's a fucking story.
No, just somebody competent, really. Someone like attractive in a football way would help, like that plays good expansive football, but someone that's competent at their job, please. That's all I'm looking for.
Okay, James is saying he's a Rangers fan as well. May I add? He says, "Take my blue tinted specs off for a minute. I'll have to admit, Lennon was a classless pellet, even at Hibs. What would Billy McNeil have thought about this guy? It was everyone else's fault, never his." The Billy McNeil line's got me thinking of all the Jockstein patter. Like, oh, you've let Jockstein in there. But let's have a look at the first and last part of what James has said. Classless. And also, like, blaming everybody else but himself, and it's came back to bite him in the arse, haven't I?
Yeah, I would agree more with the second part than the first part. I do still think he has some bit of class about him. Like, he's not this monster.
Is he not? Is he not a monster?
I'm trying to be as nice as I can here, Ryan. Come on. But he left it too long, and I'm glad that he's gone, and I'm glad that we can move on now to hopefully better times, because this season's been a disaster.
It's good that the blame game's now at the way, Kieran. We won't have to listen to interviews where we hear COVID being blamed, no fans being blamed, pitches being blamed, referees being blamed, players being... It's good that that's now gone.
I know. We can finally just focus on the football again, and you're not going to have to worry about blame games being played, about blaming the referees and blaming the park, and as you said, just the whole thing with no fans. Like, Celtic have really tried to fucking use that excuse this season. They've tried their damnedest to try and make it logical when every team is in the exact same boat. We are no different. We are not the only team in the world with fans locked at the stadium.
Mm-hmm.
They've had a full year to get used to it. I'm not having that. They're missing the fans.
Yep.
Like, it's just not the way it works. They've tried to abuse this excuse all season, and fans just at the start maybe bought into it a wee bit, but not having it, not at all.
We'll go on to Aaron, who says, "Do you use Aaron? I don't know if it's Aaron or Aaron, but either way, he says, do you think that John Kennedy will change the team much, bring in more youth players until the end of the season? Do we see much changing? Do we think we'll see a change of shape, change of tactics, change of whatever? What do we expect with Kennedy? Kieran, I'll start with
you. Touching on the youth point, I think maybe it would be nice to see him bringing in some of the youth players just to give them a chance. Ones that fans have been feeling they're out of contract, they're going to be leaving. Mm-hmm. Maybe if he was to turn around and try and give some game time to them and show that there will be a path to the first team, which is why a lot of players are leaving, because there's no clear path for us to make the step up. And that's something that's not really been happening at Celtic for a long time now. In terms of the academy, we've brought through a handful, and whether that's down to the quality in it or just no providing an actual route for these players to make it at Celtic. But hopefully we can see a bit more. Some of the players that have been completely out of sight, maybe like Karamoko Dembele.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to come on to there. As you said, Karamoko Dembele, a player who we're expecting to lose in the summer, someone with such high potential and has been spoken about so much. I mean, for God's sake, the boy's got more followers on Instagram than the club itself. And I'm no one to sit and measure up success and talent by your following, but he's someone who's spoke about worldwide. We have picked up a gem of a player who has not been given a chance. And now John Kennedy has a chance now in what seems to be meaningless games in the sense of what we get from them points-wise to give these guys a chance. And there's no reason why I think that he can't be brought in. This is a team who have been crying out for wings for wingers. You know, we've been missing wings. Oh, a wee bit of chicken wings. But we've been crying out for wingers. We've been crying out for the likes of Forrest to be back. We've missed the width in our team. Why not give him a shout? Why not give him a call up to the first team and see what he can do? Even if it's for a game to see if it works. At least give the guy a hope that he's going to make it at this club instead of just losing out on a potential money in the future and potentially just a good player for the next few years. He's definitely somebody who I think could step in. I think Kennedy has now got a chance, knowing the club so well. He's been here for how many years has Kennedy been here now? I know we've spoken about Lennon being here for 21 years or whatnot, even though it wasn't 21 years because he fucked off for 5. But you know, we're looking at John Kennedy, who's generally been here now as a player and coach since 2000, I think, or something like that. He's generally been here such a long time. He's worked with so many different players. He's worked with youth and senior players. He should know the score. He should know these guys deserve a chance. Ryan, do you see much changing with Kennedy?
Again, I'm not really sure, because this is sort of the first time that he's really been able to take charge of the team himself. Obviously, he was isolating when the whole Dubai incident happened, so it was Gavin Strachan that took charge of the team. So it'll be interesting to see what ideas he implements into the team, to see if there's going to be much change. I've got to echo what been saying regarding Dembele. I'd love to see him for a couple of games just to see if he can cut it at this level. And I feel like we do need wingers in the team because it's hurting other players that are used to playing that system. Players like El Yunusi are sitting on the bench. El Yunusi, I know he blows hot and cold, but he's got to be playing.
Yep, absolutely.
We cannot afford to have El Yunusi on the bench.
Mm-hmm.
He's too good to be on the bench.
Exactly, he's a fucking quality footballer.
And the only reason why he's hot and cold is because he's in and out of the team. See, if you were to give him 6 or 7 games, I guarantee you he'd score 5 or 6 goals.
Aye.
Because he's that sort of player. Once he's in his stride, he doesn't stop. And we saw that last season.
I don't see what's been stopping Lennon or Kennedy now to play El Yunusi on the left and Dembele on the right. I don't see what's stopping that. We've been crying out to get wingers back in, and Forrest is back in training. So if you start playing Dembele on the right just now, and then you do give Forrest perhaps a couple of games, if possible, towards the end of the season, you're now starting to play a style which is going to get the players familiar with playing with wingers once again, because we've missed it for so long. And it's better than having fucking 3 attacking midfielders in the park, for Christ's sake. Like, just make the change. An Arsenal fan, Thomas, has asked, do you think Wenger would take a job if he was offered it? I kind of chuckled when I seen that.
I mean, he's enjoying retirement.
I think he is, but I would not knock it back for a fucking instant. I would take Wenger with open arms if it was I know Arsenal want something young and fresh now, but Arsene Wenger is a genius at both football and comedy. I would love to see him come through the door.
You just want to sit at the big long jacket.
I was the exact same thing. I don't know if we do a jacket that size.
I had one back in Rodgers' first season, so my ma came in one day, right, and she said, I got you a new jacket, I think you like it. I was like, oh good, I needed a new jacket. This was coming up for winter time. It was with all my New Balance at the time. I don't know if Adidas do it. And she whips out the bag and it's like a fucking magician's sleeve, but the fucking amount it's having to come out the fucking bag. And it's this big long New Balance Celtic jacket for that season, the one that Rodgers wore in the touchlines in the rain. And there was a good few games I wore it, and I just felt like a complete fucking. Kieran will tell you, I looked a fucking tool.
The thing is, it suited Rodgers when he does it. When it's on Wenger, it looks like a massive robe.
It looks like Emperor Palpatine, doesn't he? But it's always funny seeing him try to zip it up as well. It's always a good laugh. He can never get it. It's too low down. But I would never snare at the opportunity of Wenger being manager of Celtic. I think I would take it even for a year, man. I know it's backtracking everything I've said, but bloody Arsene Wenger. I don't think it'll ever happen though. So I think we can quickly jump to an answer together.
I think he's happy with his job at FIFA as well. I think he's got a job at FIFA UEFA or something.
And he seems to be on BN Sports all the time as well. He's always on there. He's know-how of the game. I don't know this is kind of off Celtic. His know-how of the game is unbelievable. He's a genius, an absolute genius of a guy. Will you ever consider Neil Lennon to be a Celtic legend again? This is the question we've kind of dabbled on, but here we come to it now. Kieran, is Neil Lennon a Celtic legend, or has it been flushed down the toilet pan?
For me, it's gone, and I don't think this is going to be. Obviously, you've seen the past few years, Time's supposedly been a healer to some of the things the fans have been raging about. Tierney, to an extent, Rodgers with you. And like people take a step back, and as times went on, they kind of understand it and that. But it's not as if Lennon's left us mid-season to go to Leicester or nothing. Like, he is just single-handedly, he's refused to leave, and he's let the club, he's dragged us down with him, essentially. Mm-hmm. And it's to that extent, can that be forgiven? I understand a lot of people might forgive him the new. They might forgive him a few years down the line. But for me, it's going to take, I don't know how many years for me to start thinking of this in another way, because I'm just so, like, the blinkers are on. I can't think of anything other than no. And I don't see how that's going to change. The
way I'm thinking about it is, how many years is it going to be acceptable for me to wear that shirt in the brig again with Lennon 18 on the back? That's the way I'm thinking. When will that be acceptable? Ryan, is he a legend?
He will be to some fans. I don't have the same emotional investment as other people do regarding his playing career, because I can't really remember him.
Exactly.
I was a bit of a late bloomer to Celtic. I only started really watching them when I was 12, so I've had a pretty good time of it, to be honest. The amount of time that I've supported them.
Aye.
For me, no, he's not a legend, because 10 was the holy grail, and he failed to deliver on that. Mm-hmm. And not even the fact that he failed to deliver on it, it's the way it's transpired.
Yeah. Absolutely.
If he just missed out, then I would have some sympathy. It would still be a disgrace if we'd missed out by a single point. Let's not
Aye.
not underplay this. Like,
It would have all been fucking fuming either way.
all right,
Aye.
but I think it's been easier to to swallow because we've been so far behind for so long. Nah, he's not a legend for me. He was a good player and an okay manager. I mean, he'll always have his Barcelona, I guess. He's Barcelona and he's Lazio. But
And he's treble. Don't forget his treble.
Aye, don't forget his treble.
He's no stopped banging on about his fucking treble.
it's got an asterisk next to me. He shouldn't have been allowed the chance to get that treble.
Kieran, you were going to jump in there, weren't you? You were saying something. I thought you were.
I know I was, but my head's went a wee bit blank. No, fuck knows. I actually don't. Obviously something to do with Lennon.
Well, I would assume so.
That's a good guess, but I didn't even know. It's fucking escaped us.
Not a legend to me. He's fucked it. And as I said, he spat it right in my face. There you go. I've triggered it.
No, I got it. It was.
He's fucked it. That's it.
Fans could have been more forgiving if it was a close title race, but to have went down without a fight is what's really pissed people off this season. And because he's been so stubborn and think that we can still do it, even though there was clear signs that there was no fight in that team whatsoever, it's just that's been the more annoying thing, and I think that's what's going to hinder him from even getting forgiveness in the future.
Right, okay, nice. Thank you very much, lads. We'll move on. Fucking hell, plenty of reasons. I'm trying to pick and choose what ones to go through here. Thoughts on John Kennedy's interim manager? We've already covered that. Does this give you a hope that a big name will come in the summer? Quick yes or no? Are we getting a big name?
Hopefully.
That was not a yes or no, but I'll take it. Right.
I'm not committing to it.
Yes, we will. We can't afford not to have a big name. We need a big name. Yes, we will.
And then it kind of links into, that was by Connor Carr, by the way. Aaron then comes on and says, chances of John Kennedy winning a few games and getting the job permanently, is it the kind of move you would expect the Celtic board to go for? Ryan, you're shaking your head. You don't think so?
It's more that I hope it doesn't happen, because I could see it happening. Obviously, it's happened before. Neil Lennon had his interim period, and he didn't exactly do well in his audition, but he still got the job.
Yeah, what last-minute winners and like,
Aye, and people forget about the nothing each draw with Aberdeen at home, and all the last-minute games, because we were playing terribly as well. We should have seen this coming. I mean, a lot of us did see it coming, but more people should have seen this coming.
Yep.
I hope he doesn't get the job. It's more a hope than anything else, but I think we will. I think Dominic McKay will want to bring in his own man and start afresh.
Kieran, do you think there's any hope in hell of him staying on as permanent manager next season? Do you think he'll be a top of the list for candidates?
He shouldn't be anywhere near it, but as I said, I've always got that worry in the back of my head because you just never know with Celtic, but at the same time, Celtic cannot afford to have another Neil Lennon happening with just promoting somebody for a poor interim period. So, no.
I don't know quite how to pronounce this name on Twitter. It's Xoergh, Exorg, it looks like. He's just simply asked who would win the cage fight, me or Gavin Stratton. Like, as in me, Ryan Fitzsimons, or Gavin Stratton, who would win in a cage fight. I think the smell of Stratton would knock me out.
That's what I was going to say. I was going to say you wouldn't touch him.
What were you going to say, Kieran? I'm going to get a hold of him.
I said, are you going to get a hold of him, the greasy bastard? Who slipped my other place.
I know, I think
he'd have robotic arms bringing in. He'd bring in robotic arms in with his laptop.
He'd be like, I'd be taking on, do you remember the show that was the two wee robots and people control them and they come out and all the rest of it? You know what I'm talking about? I can't remember what it was called. People would build their own like robot and then they'd send it into the arena.
Robot Wars.
That was it. Aye. It'd be like me against. All right. Okay. Anyway, it'd be like him sending out his robot controlling it with a laptop against fucking me. Anyway, who should be our first signing, says Cormac. I think there's no point in talking about signings until we know who's in charge, genuinely. We need to know the style. We need to, if we go for Eddie Howe, we could very much be playing something like a 3-5-2, which you like to go with at Bournemouth quite a bit. If we went with an Owen Coyle, we'd be going 4-4-2 with the two big men up front. So, it could go either way. I don't think there's really a necessary point in talking about signings. Does anybody really jump on? I think if you're talking positions-wise, if Edouard goes, you're looking at perhaps a striker, but I like the thought of giving a Yeti and Kamara chances. Maybe a goalkeeper, maybe fullbacks, maybe a winger. There's all different areas we need to work on, really.
I know you can identify positions, but I couldn't say a specific name of a player because...
As we said in the last show, we're no fucking scouts, aye. Ryan, what were you going to say?
was going to say Boris Tashy has to get brought in.
Oh, Boris Tashy, get him in. Aye, that's the one. Boris Tashy, baby. And then we'll come on to Beans, who sends in a question every week. Love the guy. He's got 3, actually. But we'll go for why now renewal date play. Is that what it was? Was it a renewal date play?
Aye. I mean, it had to happen, but the timing of it is very convenient. The fact it's before the Rangers game as well, because if we allowed him to be in the dugout for the Rangers game, I don't even want to think of the anger after it when we get hammered inevitably. But nah, it had to happen. But I think it is convenient with the timing.
Do you think so, Ryan, as well? Do you think it is a bit, sus?
Yeah, they've done it to save face, really.
Mm-hmm.
I think they all knew that there was going to be it was going to be troublesome already to sell season tickets with obviously the situation that we find ourselves in. That's even without bringing Neil Lennon into the equation.
Yep.
Adding him into it, there'd be hardly any sales, you would think.
Yeah.
So they had to do something to get a wee bit of positivity around the place.
Absolutely.
Before they send out the letters.
He also asked if we ordered a Diego Martinez face mask. Now, if you don't know who Diego Martinez is, he's the current manager of Granada, who I think that Beans is trying to spearhead as a contender for the job. Granada, I don't know how long he's been there, but Granada have certainly been over exceeding the last few years. I think they've been in Europa Leagues and all the rest of it. So have you ordered your face mask? I am saying this and I'm saying it now. I'll stick to my fucking Eddie Howe face mask. That's what I'm wearing. You'll see me cutting about in the next few podcasts with it. In episode number 3, sorry. Question number 3. What is expected of Kennedy now? Is it simply, he's been left to pick up the shite. Is it simply just to get to the end now? Kieran?
Aye. I think it's just to see out the season. I don't think there's any great expectation on his shoulders. Just don't fuck it up as bad as we've been fucking it up.
Mm-hmm.
If he can just try and find a wee bit of consistency, people will be happy with it, but people really aren't expecting a lot.
Ryan, expectations, not many.
Just hold the fort, really, until the new chief comes in, really.
No.
Chief in terms of chief executive and manager, and we'll assess it from there, really.
Well, that about does it. We've covered everything in what has been an eventful day in Celtic, and look, we're going to be doing a lot of talking. This has certainly made the next few podcasts very intriguing, to say the least. And of course, just my channel in general, but especially on this, there'll be a lot of conversations to be had. There'll be differing opinions, I would imagine. But now, before we close the show, I'll give you one last chance and one last thing to say. This could be your farewell to Neil Lennon, if you like. Is there anything you'd like to say, Kieran? I'll start with you before we end off the show.
Just to say, even though everybody's wanted him out for ages now, you can sort of respect what he's done at the club, but everybody has to realise the damage he's also done in this last season, which is why so many people feel so strongly about his legacy being ruined, because I know a lot of people will focus on the positives in that, but I feel like the negatives of this season and the long-term damage that he has potentially done to this club far exceeds the good, and that's why I feel so strongly about it, and I'm pretty sure it's the same for you too as well.
Ryan, you got any farewell parting comments for the what is it they call him, the Jurgen Klopp?
I'd just like to say we told you so in October and November. Those self-entitled Neds, the so-called Celtic fans that were unhappy and could see this season coming from a mile away, we were right. I mean, what more needs to be said?
Yep.
I'm just glad it's over now, and I'm glad that we can finally look ahead to the future in a positive light.
Yep.
It's a new day.
Mate. Spot on, mate. It's a new day. Yes, it is. The only thing I think I've got left to say is Lennon, get to fuck. I think that's it. I think that's all I've got to say now. It's over. It's done. The tyranny is over. I feel like I'm living in 1946 Britain. Like, it's just all ended now. That's it. We're back to normality.
You have a good World War II comparison, didn't you, Ryan?
I'm a fan of history. What can I say? But look, I'm just happy that we've got to the point we have now. I've never smiled so much, and it's been a long show today. It's good to get it off our chest, lads. I thank you very, very much for coming on and spending a good couple of hours of your day talking about the man himself and the fact that he's gone from the club. Well, if you've been listening on Spotify, make sure to share it out on all the relevant social medias. Make sure to follow the podcast, download all the rest of it. You know what to do. If you've been watching on YouTube, hello, like and subscribe. It's been a pleasure. Lads, thank you once more. I'll see you all next time.